A couple of weeks ago on the channel, I set out to answer a big question. Just how close to reality did Zwift get when they remade Alpe du Zwift in their game? I was actually really impressed with just how close Zwift had managed to get it. I rode both the real Alpe du Zwift climb and then repeated with the exact same power on Alpe du Zwift to see what the time difference really was. And I was pleasantly impressed to find the difference was only 3 minutes and 38 seconds faster on Zwift than the real world, despite that being over an hour's worth of climbing. But in the comments of that video, so many of you were talking about another cycling platform, and that was ROUVY. So many of you were telling me I have to give it a go and see just how accurate ROUVY is, and that it's way better than Zwift and you can go further up the Alp and it's just a super immersive experience. So of course, I've got to follow that video up by seeing just how accurate Alpe du Zwift is in ROUVY as well. Now, before we get started, this video is not designed to be Zwift versus ROUVY, the big battle. It's actually meant to be just looking at the accuracy of ROUVY. However, if you do want to see me really dig into the weeds and compare the two platforms, you'll have to let me know in the comments below. So test rationale time then. When I was out in the Alps in the summer, I filmed a full POV uncut of the Alpe du Zwift climb, averaging 221 watts. So now I'm back in the cold, dark, rainy England. I'm going to jump into the garage, get on my turbo and ride up the exact same Alpe du Zwift climb on ROUVY at a fixed power output of 221 watts. I'm also, to keep things consistent, going to set my weight to exactly what it was last summer, which was about 68 kilos at that point. And I know we discussed in the Zwift video that there is a bit of a discrepancy here, as in the real world I had to carry water, tools and camera gear on my bike, which probably adds at least another 1.5 kilos to my system weight. But I want to keep it fair with that Zwift video, so I'm sticking to that 68 kilo weight. The idea is simple then, hold the same power output and compare just how accurate the times are. And actually, this should be even easier for me to edit down compared to Zwift, as the video footage on ROUVY is coming from the exact same road. So I should be able to get the time splits pretty much spot on as we go. So let's jump on the turbo and get started. And as we swing around this left-hander, it's all gonna start kicking off. Here we go, onto the climb properly now. And I've got the power set to 221 watts on erg mode to keep things nice and fair. So yeah, let's just tap it out and see how my time compares to Zwift and to real life. And I do have to say right from the start, the video footage is actually really quite good. I was expecting it to be a bit of a mess of interpolation, as obviously when they've driven up here in the car to film, they only take so many frames. Now I assume they use a fairly high frame rate camera, but when they're slowing it down to cycling speeds, you know, they're gonna have to guess a lot between frames. But actually, unless you start focusing right at the edge of the frame, it does look pretty smooth. The only suspense of reality does come when a car comes past and it's going way slower than you would expect it to. And it does look pretty jaggedy like you saw there. Now I do wonder in the future with some of this like video game frame gen technology, whether they could make it even better. We're already approaching the first bend here. Let's see what the time is. I'm gonna put them on screen. However, obviously I can't see them right now, so you'll have an advantage to me being able to see whether we're up or down on the real world climb. And yeah, I can really see from this why people love ROUVY, as yeah, it is really quite immersive. I was so like, oh, I don't think this is going to be very good, just watching a video feed of a climb. I thought the like animated sort of video game style of Zwift would be far more compelling, but actually, you know, I'm quite impressed with this. But for me to be willing to use it long term, the simulations have to at least be realistic. So we're going to have to wait till the top of the climb to find out just how well they hold up. Okay, and as we approach bend 20, one nice thing is you can actually see the call signs at the side of the road telling you what bend you're on, which is something obviously you can't do on Zwift, but it's a real thing when you're out in the real world riding up alpine passes, looking out for that next call sign. And Alpe du Zwift famously the call signs are based on the bend number. So let's see, are we on track time-wise? Also, I really do think in the real world, them first 2 bends are by far the worst. They're so easy to go out too hard on, and they are actually really quite steep. I think the first one's hitting nearly 10% in places, and actually towards the end is getting up towards 11. But now we're on a fun bit of the climb where the hairpins hit thick and fast. Wow, you can see a bit of a storm brewing up in the valley. I really wouldn't want to get caught out in that. We're now into the approach to the little hamlet of La Garde-en-Loison. And actually, fun fact, my dad used to have a flat in one of these apartment blocks, which on Zwift have turned into a big castle. Definitely wasn't a castle in real life. It was a pretty horrible, tiny little apartment, but I spent quite a lot of time staying there as a kid. So brings back good memories. And as we go past the sign, I think it's just about time for another time check. My fitness has come on leaps and bounds since last time I filmed this. I think my heart rate was up near 160. I'm in the 130s now. That's what 2 or 3 months of training does to you, as well as carrying a little bit of fatigue, I guess. Okay, well, bend 14, this should signify about 1/3 of the way up. And now, interestingly, we are under 1/3 of the time, so maybe I'll say something about our pace. I wonder, are we up on the real world here? You've got the time split, so you know more than me. I'm just going purely off vibes. And yeah, speaking from someone who's ridden this climb numerous times in real life, it feels pretty spot on to reality to me. Now, one thing I'm not testing though, and there's a good reason for this, is how well the platforms do the whole gradient recreation, as I think quite a lot of that comes down to sort of the quality of your turbo trainer. And as we're about to round bend number 9, we are getting properly deep into the climb at this point and well over halfway. It's feeling really good so far, but I do want to talk about my thoughts on ROUVY compared to Zwift and what does what better. Now, if you've been watching this footage so far, you'll notice there's one stark difference to Zwift. On Zwift, there are a ton of other players riding all around you, and it's got a really lively feel and quite a sort of community feel to it. It's almost like when you're riding around Mallorca or somewhere where there's hundreds of other cyclists. Whereas, as you can see on ROUVY, it's pretty much empty. Now, even when I've been on sort of online maps, you know, you load up a famous climb like the Galibier, might be 3 other players anywhere on that 3-hour-long climb. So it really does feel rather empty. Now, if all you want is the stunning countryside views and the mountains, you know, you probably don't care about the social features, but even though I thought I didn't, I actually really quite miss all that sort of buzz around from all the other riders that you just don't get here on ROUVY. The other thing is the actual sort of recreation of you riding a bike just doesn't look quite as smooth, and like your avatars in the real world have a bit of an uncanny valley feeling. And now this video is not meant to be hating on either platform. I think they've both really got their own merits. And to be honest with you, they now cost the exact same price. So just pick the one that suits you more. But I can see actually for me, who has currently got a subscription on both platforms, I'd actually mix and match my training. Now, I understand that comes with a cost that most people aren't willing to bear, but I quite like this for long zone 2 rides, just admiring the scenery. One of the strongest features of ROUVY is its vast catalogue of different routes, and I mean vast. And if it doesn't exist, in theory, you can create your own with your own video footage. And that's something I might give a go in future, because yeah, when it comes to this versus Zwift climb portals, I'll take this any day. And as you see the church poking up in the distance, that means we're approaching Bend 7, which is better known as Dutch Corner. Now in the real world on Tour de France day, there would be swarms of fans by the side of the road, holding signs telling you to want to buy EPO, water, pastis and orange juice, as well as some orange flares, which the riders obviously hate. And yeah, this is where all the Dutch fans turn up. Now Zwift does pay homage to it a little bit by putting some orange tents out. What I would really like to see from ROUVY, now they probably have to sponsor the tour to do this, is to have filmed the video for the Alpe on Tour de France day, maybe just in front of the race, so they get all the fans at the side of the road. Now that would be something really engaging. But yeah, if you've ever been up here on Tour de France day, it's a magical experience. And hopefully, I should be able to get out there this summer to show you all just what it's like, especially if you've not managed to have the opportunity to go out yourself. And you can just about see the town looming in the distance, but our next target is to ride up through the village of Huez. Ski set getting a nice bit of free advertising from ROUVY here. I bet that's something they'll do in the future. Have real like adverts at the side of the road. Surprised no one's doing that yet. And yeah, this is a bit where you've got to really focus in the real world and keep your rhythm, because the gradient does undulate a bit here and it's quite easy to sort of get out the swing of it and lose concentration up through Huez. As soon as you get out the top, it's back on game mode, but you know, you've been battling up the hairpins and suddenly it's all this busy village. So you've got to really concentrate and just keep the power down and not get distracted by all the ongoings around you. And as we go round Bend 6, we're really getting deep into this climb now. So let's get another time check. Now we really are feeling like we're getting close to the town now. Going under the ski lift stations, onto 3 bends to go now. Up on that meadow you can see just ahead of you. So you go bend 3, 2 and 1. This one's always a long one before the last 3 are a little bit quicker together. Okay, and as we round bend 3, I'm going to give you the final time check before we reach the summit. You can really see the final bend coming into view there. At 1700 meters, you're probably taking a good few % hit on your threshold power now. That fortunately doesn't affect you when you're nice and at home at sea level. And as we're about to hit the final hairpin, well, actually maybe not, I'll get to that in a minute. To quote my first ever Alpe du Zwift video, last push, last corner. Let's go get to the top. As I mentioned in the Zwift video, I don't expect ROUVY to be a perfect recreation of real life. And actually, I don't think it would be a better game if it was. And we're so close to being there now. This pedestrian crossing up ahead marks the top of the climb on Zwift and where I pause my Garmin in the real world. And there we go. Finishing time on screen now. But you'll notice something. I haven't actually stopped, have I? And now, this was something I discovered when I was researching the video, that the ROUVY climb doesn't actually end here. It keeps climbing up through the town, akin to when you're doing the full Tour de France itinerary. It's about another 1.5 kilometers, I think, up through the town, adding nearly 100 meters more climbing. And this bit is always a pain to ride in the real world because you are riding through a busy ski town with lots of traffic, often construction work, and as Andrew Feather found out trying to do the GCN effort, there was actually a market in town as well. Really unfortunately for ROUVY, the Tour de France itinerary should be going right here, but as you can see, For some reason or other, the road is closed, and unfortunately, you can't go that way whenever they were filming it. So we have to go left and head up through the town this way. And here we are, rejoining the main road, just above where the Tour de France finishes. If that's all you're interested in, you've finished the proper climb. ROUVY isn't stopping. And actually, we're climbing on, up and up above the town. And this has got me really excited, as this is a bit of the road that I've never done before. And it's a climb I'm gonna have to give a go in the real world. And up and up and up we go. Properly up into the meadows here. The only time I've been this high up on the Alps, it's been covered in snow and I've had skis on. So I definitely didn't notice there was a road here then. And as we turn to face the mountain, you can see it's so atmospheric up in the cloud. I absolutely love days like this in the mountains, when the clouds low hanging on the edge of the mountains with little pockets you can see through. I wonder just how long this is actually going to go on for, because as I said, I knew it kept climbing above the town. I didn't realise it climbed this far. An elevation counter would be something nice ROUVY could add in the future, because especially when you're in the high mountains, it's nice to know just how high you've got. And wow, look at them views as we pan around. I've been in this cafe a few times before, probably about 15 years ago though. And wow, look at that breathtaking scenery. And I think these banners are here to mark the finish of the course. And wow, what a climb that was. But there is one little unfortunate reality with ROUVY. Just watch, as we finish, bang, you're back at the bottom, teleported straight there. As because the way it works, how it's really just a video feed, there's no way to be able to ride back down again. So then, as you've seen, I really enjoyed my time riding on ROUVY, but it's time to find out just how close it was to the real world. So looking at the footage, you can see it was about 3 minutes and 50 seconds faster than reality. And when you compare that to on Zwift, where it was 3 minutes and 38 seconds faster, we are pretty much bang on, which is actually really relieving to see that both platforms are so consistent with each other when it comes to recreating climbs. They're clearly both doing something quite right with their sort of physics simulations. And as we discussed in the Zwift video, there are so many factors that make riding on the turbo a lot more efficient than riding in the real world. So you would expect it to be faster, especially as I said, effectively by using my own body weight out in the real world, you aren't truly representing your system weight. So actually, if I was to do the climb again at about 70 kilos on ROUVY, which would be probably closer to what my system weight was in the real world, I reckon the time gap would be even closer. And of course, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's a training platform for fun that should be just trying to engage you and make training a more pleasant experience. And I think it does that perfectly. My main concern was if it was wildly inaccurate and was giving people pretty much a wrong idea of what they could climb in the real world. The other awesome thing is the fact that you can actually go further than I've ever even ridden up Alpe d'Huez, all the way up to some of them ski restaurants further up the slopes. And yeah, I am gonna have to give them a bit of an explore this summer. So as I said right at the start, this is not meant to be a big battle of Zwift versus ROUVY, but I really think both platforms offer such different experiences to each other, and both also equally have their own merits and drawbacks. So if you are interested in seeing my opinions pitching Zwift versus ROUVY against each other, you'll have to let me know, because that is a video I'm quite keen to make, and if you guys all want it, I'll get making it. And over the next few weeks, I've got tons more virtual cycling content coming for you. I might even have a little play around at racing on Zwift again. I've just got to be a little bit careful that I don't derail my pretty intense training at the minute, which if you want a bit more insight into, check out my Strava, linked below. And while you're at it, make sure you get subscribed and hit the thumbs up button. It really helps the channel. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.